All right, we are live on the Facebook land, YouTube land. What's going on, Denzel? What's going on, everyone?
So,
Keeping it fresh. Denzel and I are coming back for our fifth, sixth conversation. We're just going to keep doing them.
yeah,
Partly because I feel like Denzel and I resonate on so many levels. And when we have these conversations, it really spurs a lot of, like, I feel like there's energy for me to go forward. I feel like there's energy for you to go forward. And then also for everyone listening, you get to dive into our minds, our space. And so I wanted to come on and do this again. But before we get going, today's topic is about joy, finding joy in your life. What does that mean? How to relate to that for any really situation. But one of the new joys in my life is the Indian clubs that Denzel recommended. Turns out my girlfriend had a pair laying around. You know, you do the treasure, the COVID treasure, find what's in your house. And I've been doing the swings, man. And I got to tell you, like 10 minutes and I'm pooped. I am
yeah,
wiped. It's great. So
yeah.
thank you.
Powerful tool. They're great. They are.
Um,
Yeah, happy to hear that.
yeah. And so if you're watching here, Denzel has a few videos on his Instagram, on his Facebook. I don't know. Do you teach an Indian clubs class or do you work with clients on Indian clubs?
I do work with clients. I've done a couple of online like Zoom sessions, and then like some socially distanced sessions in the park, and then obviously before we were in lockdown, I was doing pretty
In the
much
gym.
introducing them to just about everyone, just because most of us have the same issues of tight shoulders, too much stress in our necks and our shoulders and traps and everything. So the clubs are a good way of just kind of conditioning your shoulders, but also helping to relax and regain awareness of just your body and space and yourself in general. So
Yeah, I found it to be a really beautiful art too. You know, I felt like I grew up in a martial arts family, and so there was like, I don't always like to go back to that space, but it found it to be a very peaceful thing. I found it to be very meditative and joyful, you know?
yeah.
And that's really what I want to talk about today, because, we've had so much disharmony
Mhm.
in the world, it seems, right? And
Yeah.
our thoughts go out to the families in Lebanon
Mhm.
with the whatever it was. You know,
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
catastrophic, and these things are happening. It's hard to find joy. And I was doing a meditation the other day for a client, and what came up inside me was talk about more of the joys. Remind yourself of the joys that we have as children, the joys we have being in relationships, the joys that we bring each other that don't cost anything. Also,
mhm.
so I
Yeah.
thought I'd just jump in and ask you, like how have you been able to find joy in this time period, and maybe how do you see that helping you?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for me was I forget who I heard say it, but instead of being like, "Oh, I have to do this" or blah blah blah, it's saying I get to do. So just like having that reframe of like reshaping your words to try to be more positive, to look forward to, oh, what do I get to do today? Like this is a complete privilege to be able to, whether it's go in the woods or working with clients, whatever I'm able to do on a day to day in my life, it's like I get to do it. This is an awesome privilege because it's another day that I'm breathing, right? That I'm
Yeah.
here on this earth. So trying to find joy in this time, there's still days that it's difficult, but I think I've explored enough and spent enough time alone to kind of figure out what are those things that truly makes me happy. And that's come through constantly kind of learning and being open to trying new things. So for me, it's, Indian clubs are a huge joy. I've gotten into Kali lately, which is basically a Filipino martial art. Some of the patterns are very similar to Indian clubs, so that's been bringing me a lot of joy, movement in general. So that's, whether that's training or every morning I've started this. It's a fairly new habit, but basically I wake up, brush my teeth, wash my face, and then go right outside. And I do this basically, it's probably like 300 steps stair climb up onto this path, and then the path is like through eucalyptus trees and redwoods, and
Beautiful.
it's foggy in the morning, so it's almost like you're in a not a steam room because it's not hot, but you get like almost essential oil smell of the eucalyptus in the air. And then I meditate up there, and then I turn around
Dude.
back home and get started with my day. But it's just trying to make sure that the things that bring me happiness, I am making priority one. So I want to get that checked off. Uh, the, Checked off the table as soon as I wake up, just to make sure everything else doesn't feel like it's hindering me from being able to get to those things that I really find joy in.
Yeah. It reminds me of a recent video by, I always want to say Richard Branson, but that's definitely not his name. Russell Brand. Very similar, right? It's like
Oh yeah,
Richard
yeah, yeah.
Branson
I can see
backwards.
that. Yeah, yeah.
And he says he said something really powerful that I really resonated with is often clients will ask me like, well, they'll tell me about their dreams that they had. My dreams were really bad, or I had this crazy dream. What does it mean? And I used to try and interpret, like based on symbology or what I had learned from the shamanic space or ancient kind of wisdom teachings. But I've recognized, and he said this in his video. He said the first thing I do is I wake up and like like what we should do, take care of your body, brush your teeth, do your thing.
Yeah.
And then he said, I go straight into meditation, and I try not to look at the phone. And obviously that's something that a lot of people, especially recently, like Ariana Huffington has said, don't look at your phone for the first 10 minutes, engage with the space around you, come into your meditation practice. And he said that his dreams are rarely good, and that process of recognizing that it's not about his dreams being good or bad, but that he needs to find himself in the moment, right? Like we're
Mhm.
coming out of this reality where things are very scattered. There's a million experiences that could happen. We may be processing emotions. We may be processing the world, what's going on in the world. And that these stresses need to be balanced. And so if we're going to come into the day with some clarity, or I would say a better chance of success, then we're going to have to want to live a better life in those first few moments. It's just like setting up your day is so
Yeah,
important.
yeah, absolutely. It's I was just actually, I forget who I was talking to, one of my friends, um, and I'm like, how do you wake up to like the alarm? Like the actual alarm that's erratic and is meant to be annoying. I'm like, that is an awful start to the day. Like, as soon as the iPhone came with the bedtime app, where it's like gradually gets louder and louder, and it's like a peaceful sound. I feel like I'm waking up with the birds chirping. Like, there's no way I ever want to wake up again to like an annoying sound that's meant to just irritate me, because I feel like that just sets up the rest of my day, so that like I'm just a little bit on edge because I'm mad that my day started like that. But I just gotta do it with me. Whereas now it's like, I've been using it for years now. Whenever they started implementing this feature on the phone, and it's made a huge difference. One, to wake up to alarm number one, because it's a peaceful one. So then you're not more inclined to jam that snooze button and hear that annoying sound. Like there's nothing worse to me than just having an alarm to start my day.
It could be like the Flintstones, and you could have the bird and the rock hit you on
Right.
the head. Yeah. I feel like we've overcomplicated performance.
Yeah.
It's and I bring that back to joy because when I was playing sports, the joy was not in the winning. I mean, certainly there is something to be said about winning, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but the joy was in like, oh, I get to do this, is my weekend. This is like, there's a flow. I always liked going, you go on a baseball trip, or you got to go to another, there's a plan, there's a strategy. And in order to perform your best, there are certain things to get there. But we don't want to let go of human nature either, right? It's not, I don't think it's human nature to be waking up to the most annoying sounds in the
Yeah.
world, like a Jim Carrey sound. But yeah, maybe something a little soother, a little more soothing to bring you into the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what that brings me to is like, really it's trying to be just purposeful behind pretty much
Yeah.
everything that you do. And it's, trying to re examine the ways that your days are done and seeing if you can do things differently and trying to give those things a go too. I think it was Tim Ferriss that's talked about like basically he would write down what he did daily for weeks. And then he's like, what would happen if I did the exact opposite of each of those actions? And what he ended up finding, you either find out like the way you were doing it before was good and that was something that will bring you joy, or this new way of trying to do essentially the same thing might be something that actually makes you way more joyful, or it's a realization of, oh, I don't need to waste my time doing that thing because when I stopped doing it, nothing changed, right? So I feel like a lot of times we're just stuck in these patterns and it's very hard to find joy when you're just kind of going with the motion all the time and not really ever taking the moment like you were talking about, Russell Brand talking about, like waking up in the morning, if you have bad dreams, good dreams, whatever, is being able to at least sit for a moment and see what has been on your mind before getting into your day, as opposed to, waking up to an annoying alarm, having a bad dream, and then just diving right into your day. Is there's no time for you there, right? You're constantly focused on just a job or something else. So it's just making sure we find time to be a little bit selfish and just focus on making sure that our physical, our mental, our spiritual are all healthy and where they should be.
And that's also how I think, we're gonna get closer and closer to a better world. I think often it's seen as like, I'm not doing enough in the world. How can I make a
Mhm.
change? Right. But we drastically underestimate our ability to create small changes in our life. And that those snowball, just in the same way there could be a snowball to a disaster, there can be a snowball to joy, you
Yeah.
know? And I think it's the other reason I wanted to bring this conversation in, because I think it's also good to say, give yourself permission to be joyful, even when
Yeah.
things feel like they're not so great, right? There's always a reason. It doesn't mean you have to be joyful all the time. I think that would be ludicrous. I wouldn't like that. I think that, we would also, hormones, right? There's too much of this like really exciting serotonin dopamine hit, or there's not enough.
Mhm.
There's the stress is too much. We feel lethargic, right? We want to find that middle ground where our body chemistry is balanced, and we're also feeling like we can navigate the challenges, not with a sense of like happiness where like, oh, like this bad thing that's happening makes me feel happy, but
Yeah.
that there's joy that you uncover from it, right? Like
Yeah.
going through a grueling workout may feel very difficult and, sometimes demanding, and then there's the joy of finishing it. The joy. I remember when I was first starting to do hit exercises, and they're counting my reps. Oh my gosh, they're counting my reps. What if I don't do enough reps?
Yeah.
I'm going to be reprimanded.
Yeah.
And it was quite the opposite. I found that I neglected to know what all those reps were. So in effect, I was cheating myself. And then you get dinged for cheating because the mindset was, oh, I have to win the game.
Yeah.
And instead of it being about like, well, what's the joy of moving your body? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, part of that is just creating different relationships with different things that you do. So some people might currently be using whether it's eating or movement as essentially punishment, right? Like, oh, I didn't move today, so tomorrow I'm gonna punish myself, make myself do like the most awful thing, or maybe someone ate what they think is bad, and then next thing you know, they're not eating or doing something kind of harmful the next day. So it's like just trying to find a more positive outlook on those two things, right? Like being like, oh, I might have forgot to move yesterday, but I'm remembering right now. Let me just go get some movement in because I know it'll make me feel better, right?
Yeah.
Or,
I
oh, I, had a lapse of judgment for a moment there. That was just a brief moment. I'll try not to do that again, right? And just try to do better next time. But the idea of like punishment makes it so we feel guilty about feeling joy ever. I feel like.
yeah, I was just about to say, like, I think you described it, the idea of feeling guilty. I feel like it's so easy to put ourselves to lose energy
Hmm.
because we have this feeling like we're not enough, or we're not going to be enough, we're not going to show up enough.
Yeah.
And then I feel like those are the tools also that you were describing about, being in nature and engaging in the world that doesn't have a quote unquote quarterly result. The
Yeah.
trees aren't like every quarter did you grow 4 inches.
Yeah. Yeah.
But every now and then we get to see massive growth happen, right? There was a video I saw of Mount Whitney, which is the tallest peak in the continental United States, and someone actually filmed the earthquake that happened at the top of the mountain, and you could see it was incredible. The rocks were falling, and he was safe, which was also incredible.
Yeah.
But there was just tons of dirt and smoke everywhere from. But it's like that type of change makes a mountain. It makes this monumental structure that goes so high, and that we that humans want to climb. And so it's also that idea that we're trying to climb this pinnacle of what does it mean to be successful? What does it mean to be joyful in life?
Hmm.
And I'm also curious, not just how has joy played out for you, but also like what is your like what is your opinion on how joy can be used as a tool,
Mm.
not just as like a frivolous, like, oh, like I'm joyful today. It's just for whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be used as a tool. I feel like joy is infectious, right?
I
So
love that. Yeah.
it's if you're around people that are seemingly joyful, right? There's no way you're going to continue in whatever glum state you might be in, right? So I think that's a really powerful use of it. Is it just kind of helps to uplift others, and there's not really any better thing we can do as people than help other people when they feel like they're down. It's just put a helping hand out there and help pull them up out of whatever state that they're in. So I think utilizing and finding things that bring you joy just will make you more of a pleasure to be around to everyone else, which then, other people are going to be more open to being themselves, to healing themselves, because it's like you're giving them a model to pretty much try to mold their behavior after. So I think that's an important aspect on why we don't need to be joyful all the time, but it's like we should actively be trying to find things in life that do bring us some sort of happiness, some sort of moment of like just joy, right?
In the kind of 5 pillars of awareness of wellness that I have kind of brought myself to understand. Not that I say that it's different for anyone else, but the feeling of joy, as you said, is infectious. It's a community feeling. It's something that, like, oh, that person's joyful. Oh,
Mhm.
that person's joyful to be around. It's someone that has this kind of energy that is willing to be of service at any given moment, and that it doesn't take energy to go above and beyond. Also, I would say when we're feeling joyful, it's not as hard to show up for the things that maybe are a little bit more difficult, that we don't want to do, that we want to put off. And it makes them, especially when we do it together, right? Like doing accounting with a partner, or doing a work group. I know a lot of people are doing work groups where they say, okay, 5 of us are going to get on a Zoom, and we're going to we're going to work on our own projects, but we're holding each other accountable by being on camera.
Yeah.
Or I'm doing the meditation because I'm showing up on camera. So I think that there's all these great ways, and I really love what you said about it being a community effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like the combo of saying, if I go into something, there are things in my schedule where at first you're like, oh, do I really have to do that? Right. You start to use that word and you're like, okay, no, I know when I do this thing, I will feel 1,000 times better afterwards. So I need to get myself to do it. And then the way, again, to do that is to be like, I get to do this thing. I get to hang out with all these people. I get to see, this and that. Plus, they are going to bring me joy, right? Like, we know what communities do for our health, what socializing does for our health. And in times it feels like it's going to be a burden, but at no point is it ever really. Like, anytime that you're giving of yourself, giving your time, it comes back to you tenfold of just like the kind of joy that it actually brings to your life, of the impact you're having, or just the human connection that you're creating with other people. It's so as much as I hate like shoulding myself, like trying to, be like, oh, I should be doing this and that, the reality is, for things that will bring you happiness and joy, it's like you should try to find a way to get yourself to do it, knowing that you're going to feel 1,000 times better afterwards. And most of the time you want to use healthier language and just try to reframe it. But when you say you get to, it's just changing the language, but the message is still the same, of like, something has to happen.
Words are powerful.
Yeah.
What we say for ourselves is so important. And I'm a very introspective person, so oftentimes, even though I do love to talk, it's sometimes hard for me to express myself. How am I really feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And then being able, but I can't do that by myself. It has to be with someone else. There has to be someone listening from the other side in order for me to get that good feedback. And I think that's also a joy, the
Mm-hmm.
ability, to say, well, because we're human, we get to have these experiences where there's dialogue and there's learning about our experiences and how our collective experiences helped to create more harmony.
Yeah.
I had totally forgotten about this story, but in our neighborhood, we were walking around the other day, just doing a little hike, and there was this black young gentleman not wearing a mask in the middle of the street, and he was taking photos of houses. And we kind of did our social distance thing, walked around, and then he started taking pictures of us. And I felt very awkward. I didn't really know, do I say something? Do I not? My first
Yeah.
reaction was to say something, so I just said, if you're gonna, please don't take pictures. And then it started to the energy started to build, and I thought, wow, here I'm in this scenario. I feel like these are conversations I'm having every day with clients and friends and yourself. And we're really exploring how I thought, okay, here's a chance for me to like really show how much joy being in this human conversation, this human experience brings me.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want anything of it. It was just like, we quickly realized there was some mental instability. And so it was best to kind of just avoid it. And later we learned that he had been doing it around the neighborhood. But the point was that I had this like energy came through me. I thought, okay, like I need to stand up for the joy that I'm bringing into my life and that I want to bring into the experiences that I'm having. And I don't want to allow that this scenario to tamper for me
Yeah.
to express who I am. And
Yeah.
so like, it was this great example of being able to say like, well, this is our neighborhood. This isn't my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So there are things to talk about, but all at the same time, we have to see each other for the scenario as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's just, the ability to press pause on a moment and try to bring to the situation the best version of yourself, right? So not
Correct.
one that's,
Correct.
that's operating off of any sort of emotion or quick judgment or anything like that. So it's like, we were constantly practicing these things. So anytime we come across scenarios in life on the outside, it's like being able to have the ability to pause and try to pull that into a situation that, maybe the other people you're dealing with haven't had a joyful moment
Correct.
in months or years or, however long it's been. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that,
Yeah, there's a deep relating for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because, well, not funny, but it was this experience, and then it brought up all these memories of me. And you and I have chatted about these, you know, playing baseball in lower income areas, playing with chalk as sorry, playing with flowers, chalk lines for
Mhm.
baseball, and not having great baseballs to play with, and it didn't stop us from being joyful. Didn't stop
Yeah.
us from being able to play the game and have fun. And in the same way, I think that's also the carrot on the stick of privilege right now. Is it was a privilege to have those experiences,
Yeah.
so that when there's less, there's more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. I think that's the biggest thing is getting down to realizing what truly brings most people joy is not things, right?
Yeah,
They usually have to do with an aspect of just being human and what that would look like if we're stripped away from this world that we've created, right? So social aspect, human to human aspect, those things would still be there, even if society looked different. Getting out into nature, that would still be there, if
yeah,
society was different. So it's like trying to really get down to the essence of what it means to be human, right? And that's feeling strong in our bodies is a huge part of it as well, right? Feeling capable of doing things, which is why, I try to guide so many people towards strength training. Is just because I'm like, I know the power of strength, right? Like I know what that can do for your the way that you see yourself and the way that you carry yourself and in this world. So, there's just so much to just trying to truly be human to our best ability that I think brings all of us the most joy.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, it's so true. Being in the body is so important, and right now than ever. And it's a great place to start too, because it doesn't require anything else but showing up
Yeah,
and doing the practice. Yeah.
absolutely.
What's the Zen saying? Chop wood, carry water.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool. Awesome, Denzel. It was so awesome talking with you as always, man.
yeah. Likewise. Thanks.
Cool. All right, everyone. Denzel and I are doing this every 2 weeks. A little live a better life with Darren and Denzel. A little clip. Check us out. Drop a comment if you have any questions or just want to say hi, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. All right. Thanks again, Denzel.
Yep. Thank you.